Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day, everybody. And this is a very, very, very special event for us. This is our first CJ Salon year, and it really wouldn't have come together without the help of our sponsors and our partners, 72 and Sunny. We're in their house here, and they are probably, if not the most, one of the most progressive agencies in the world. So I want to give a shout out. Okay, this is better. And also, they say there's no accidents, and it's been an amazing blessing that Tyra Lindsay Warren came into our lives maybe about a year ago or so, and told us about this phenomenal story and this book, and you'll hear from our wonderful authors, and it was something we couldn't resist, and we wanted to find the right time and the right home to bring it to you in Los Angeles. So I also want to give another shout out for Tyra, who you'll meet very soon. And I thought I would just open with a quote from Maya Angelou. We can learn to see each other and see ourselves in each other and recognize that human beings are more alike than we are different. And I think Trying to Sleep in the Bed That You Made epitomizes that. Unfortunately, Geena couldn't be here tonight. She actually had a family emergency. Everyone's okay. But she had to spend some time at the hospital tonight, so she won't be joining us, but she sends our love. And without further ado, we're going to get the show on the road. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am Virginia DeBerry. That makes me the other one. And we are the reason you are all here tonight. We are the writers. We are grateful to see a full house. We are grateful to have supporters here who have been with us on this journey 20 years. Those who came along 15 years ago, those who came along 5 years ago, and those who we just met. We are grateful that you are all here.
And it's been an extraordinary journey with Trying to Sleep in the Bed You Made. One of the things that's always amazed me is that there is no one you can say that phrase to who does not immediately understand it and identify. Because really, all of us have made some beds. And a lot of them, and a lot of times they're not too easy to sleep in. The genesis of the story came a lot from conversations that we had had along the way, because before we were writing together, we were great friends together. And we talked about every subject under the sun. But we talked a lot about friendship and what that meant to us. And we wanted to tell a story that celebrated those kinds of friendships.
And it was important for us to tell stories about the kind of friends that we not only had growing up, but that our mothers had, that our grandmothers had. The kind of representation that we did not see of ourselves in the media. We wanted to write stories that reflected our lives the way that we live them. And when I say our lives, I mean Black women. The way that we live them is not the way that they have been generally portrayed in the media. And so all of our books that we have written are about those really important relationships between friends, between sisters, between mothers and daughters.
And it was gratifying when you have 13, 14, 15-year-olds who have read the material and they write us book reports. No one assigned them this book, but they write us book reports and they tell us what they learned from each of the characters. And they learned some things that really your parents are trying to tell you, but you really don't want to hear it from them. So this was their way of learning some things about life and sharing them with Mom and with Dad, because everybody in the house was reading the book and Dad wanted to know what was going on too. And we try very hard to represent men and women and any of our characters in ways that we understand them. One of the things that happened also is that people enjoyed the representation of the two of us as the authors, because so often what they saw in the media was Black women at each other's throats. And what we represented for them and they represent to us is the way that we really do see each other. So it is exciting to share this evening with you, to revisit several of our stories and to hear them, for you to hear them, for you to hear them with us. And we can talk about that after the presentation.
So we have been on this journey for 20 years, and we, in addition to that being 7 books ago, we have been in the process of trying to get, not only Trying to Sleep in the Bed You Made, but all of our books made into films. And one of the crazy things that has happened is that we've been told that our books are universal. The stories are stories that all women can relate to. And we have had studio executives here in Los Angeles tell us that they would like to make, especially Trying to Sleep in the Bed You Made, with Gwyneth Paltrow and Winona Ryder. Because if the story is universal, that main characters must, by definition, be white. They cannot be Black. And we had this conversation in 1998, and we just packed up our little things and walked away. So, this is a wonderful show of support that this story was vital then, it is vital now. We get emails still to this day. We got one last night from readers who are just discovering this book. So we are grateful that you are all here. We hope you enjoyed this presentation. Trying to Sleep in the Bed You Made is our first baby. It's really our second first baby, but it's the first baby. That story is too long for right now. But it is the story that made everything possible. It has been in print since 1997. It has sold over 800,000 copies. And that doesn't represent the number of people that actually read the book. Because we all know that if you read it, you gave it to your friend, who gave it to her neighbor, who gave it to her hairdresser. So we know that we have millions of readers. We know you're going to enjoy this. Thanks.
Gail picked up a hand mirror and checked out her prom dude from all angles in the mirror above the dresser.
I knew it would. This is just the beginning. Soon Marcus and I will have a fierce wedding with a white Rolls Royce, or maybe a carriage and horses. And then we'll have a big old house built with marble bathrooms and chandeliers.
Gail Denise Saunders. Do you hear yourself? Do you think you may be throwing away his education? Have you even once considered what's best for Marcus?
She hadn't meant to say that. She was planning to joke around while Gail got dressed, like they used to. But she heard Marcus's name, and something that was still too hot exploded.
And you know what's best for everybody, right?
Gail yanked open a dresser drawer and pitched a strapless bra on ivory lace panties and a package of pantyhose on the bed.
She got all those rich people like I'm not good enough.
I didn't say that. But all you're doing is counting his money and what you can buy with it.
When they were girls, the small bedroom had been plenty big for shared thoughts and separate dreams. But they were almost women now. Pat's dreams stepped on Gail's toes, and Gail's hopes just rubbed Pat the wrong way.
Okay, and suppose Marcus doesn't want to marry you. I mean, what are you going to do?
Oh, he's gonna marry me because Gail is. But I wouldn't expect you to know what that means because it's not a daggone textbook.
Gail tied the nylons up around her hair, carefully tucking in stray curls.
Believe me, I know more than what's in a book. For instance, I know being cute won't get you over forever.
What would you know about being cute? Or even having a boyfriend. You dress like a bull dagger and you act like you know more than anybody. No man's gonna want you making him feel stupid all the time. It's gonna be hard knowing so much and being all by yourself.
Okay, I may be alone, but I'll be able to take care of myself. Okay, what are you planning to do between graduating and when you become Mrs. Marcus better than Reggie Jackson Carter, huh? Or are you gonna sit on your little legs behind the wings? And what if he never makes it until the very end?
Oh, he's gonna make it all right. I know Marcus will do it, and I'll be right there with him.
Everett stood in front of her, still drying his hairy chest. Celeste sipped her wine far from the tree.
I brought up the last one.
I had a minute right now. I see something I'd rather have.
He sat beside her and tried to pull her into an embrace. Celeste was as pliable as a 2x4.
Come here. Let me ease your mind.
I wish you could. Anyway, I kind of already made plans for our vacation.
Wait, you made plans for our vacation, you didn't tell me? Oh, I get it. It's a surprise, right? You're going to stop by the clinic, you're going to have the bags packed, you're going to pick me up.
Not exactly. It kept slipping my mind.
That felt lame as soon as it left her lips, but Celeste had no choice but to plow on.
It was a great opportunity. So I accepted the rental in kind.
No, you didn't.
Everett shot to the other side of the room. Hands on hips, he stared at the floor. The smooth contours of his face turned to granite, and Celeste felt static in the air, like right before a storm. They hadn't argued in a long time, but Celeste braced herself as he banged open a dresser drawer, grabbed some briefs, and put them on.
Please tell me that you didn't do that, Celeste.
He opened the closet, snatched some chinos off a hanger.
It was getting late. We hadn't made any plans. I didn't want us to get caught out there without anything.
Everett stopped in his tracks.
But it's so funny.
So let me get this right. You booked the one place, specifically I said that I didn't want to go to. Huh? Now, that's good, Celeste. That's really good. Really good.
Listen, I know what you said. But we always take the rental with the
Listen,
same
it's
old...
always is over, darling. You should have listened to me. Because I'm not going.
Oh, come on, Ed. Can't go alone. Because Lydia and Thornton, they would have a field day.
Listen, if you'd listened to me a little bit and paid a little bit of attention to what I said, you would know that I don't give a shit what they think.
You're overreacting. It's not the last vacation we'll take. I mean, we can go to your little jazz thing or whatever next year.
Celeste felt her world wobble. Everett stared at her like he'd never seen her before.
My little jazz thing. Well, that about sums it up, doesn't it? Obviously, you don't care what I have to say.
That's not true.
Listen, you know what? I'm not even arguing with you. Because if I give you enough time, you'll make this whole thing my fault. Listen, I've tried every single thing I can do. You know what? Half the time I feel like some kind of show dog. You parade me around collecting points or ribbons or whatever it is that you get for a good performance.
He shoved his feet into sneakers and knelt to lace them. Celeste stood up, hoping to regain her footing. She picked up his towel from the bed, folded it, and held it to her chest.
You can always cancel. It's late for them to find another couple, but
Look, it's not about the vacation. It's the way our marriage has been for years. You go along your merry way, taking these plans that suit you, an idea of the perfect life. You don't give me or anybody else credit for having any sense. I mean, how fortunate we all are for being able to have you show us the way.
okay, I never said.
No, you're right, you didn't say it. You never came out and said that I was an embarrassment to you. But your message is loud and clear. Well, I can't do this anymore.
He stood and looked her square in the eyes.
I'm out of here, Celeste.
Okay, fine. When you get back.
No. I don't mean for a walk around the block. I mean, I want a divorce.
All Celeste could hear was her heart pounding. It felt like a long time before she could make her lips move.
You don't mean that.
Do you even kill yourself? I mean, this would be funny if it wasn't. I almost walked many times before, but something always stopped me. Nikki, or the way I remembered you back in the day. I don't even recognize you.
He moved towards the door, then stopped.
You know, the last time I had my bags packed, your father died. I couldn't do it then. I wouldn't, because we're a family. And that was a crisis. And after that, I decided to give it one more chance. One more chance. But I'm through with today. I've seen life and death as a part of my job description. But when your father died, I realized that life can be over faster than you can scratch you. Any time, any day. Now, it's too short for me not to enjoy every moment. I've just seen this through as far as I can. Darling, this may be enough for you, but it's not.
Who is it this time?
Celeste hissed, grasping wildly.
Bingo! I've been waiting for you ace in the hole, baby. Yeah, it's been damn near a decade. But you talk about it like it was just yesterday. Well, I hate to disappoint you, Donna, but it's not anybody else. It's about whom we are no more. And maybe we never were.
What kind of example is this for Nikki?
You know what? You need to stop hiding behind Nikki. In case you haven't noticed, she's a woman now. And believe me, this is going to come as no surprise to her. She lived here, remember? Now we can tell her when she gets home in 2 weeks. I won't mention it to anyone until then.
Tell her what? Tell her! Everett, this is crazy. Okay? Are you like having a breakdown or something? What is this?
Everett closed his eyes, shook his head, then turned and left the room. Celeste stood, paralyzed, her hands balled into a fist, her body quaking. She heard the back door close, heard Everett start the car, and drive off.
He can't leave me. He can't leave me.
Jewel grinned at Regina, who sucked her teeth at Carmen, then reached between them and jabbed the elevator button again. And at the instant, the car went black as it screeched and jolted to a halt.
What the? If you didn't want to see the movie, you could have just said no, Reggie.
Very funny, smart ass. But this is kind of freaky. I can't even see my own. It's not funny. Somebody could get hurt. Okay. What, like we planned this little get together? Okay, maybe if we jump up in there. Are you crazy? If this thing falls, it could kill us. Okay, you don't have to yell.
Stop playing. Good. The emergency button is the red button, the one on the top. You think you can find it?
Yeah, it would help if I could see it.
But just move. I'll do it.
But a chilly trickle of sweat slid down Carmen's back anyway. She leaned in and smacked at the buttons until a piercing bell ripped through the silence. When it stopped, Regina peeled her hands from her ears.
Shit! I may never hear it again. You always have to curse. Okay, you know, what is it with you, Carmen? Damn! You walk around with your nose in the air like you can't be bothered with anybody.
You know what? I'm here to get an education. Period. I got a job, work study, my classes, and an hour commute. And I actually just don't have time to socialize like some people.
La-di-freaking-da. It's the same 4-year sentence whether you talk to anybody or not, so it doesn't mean you can't say hi or never practice law.
Hey, if you two come to roast, tomorrow's spectator headline will be Wrong on Black. What's wrong? I think I have a few things over.
You're not though.
You know what? I gotta get out of this box and go to work. If that's all right with you two.
Carmen struggled to bring her voice down from the scared shriek that had slipped her right before. She fidgeted with the token in her pocket, trying to keep her hands from shaking, trying not to feel trapped. It wasn't just what happened with Randy. She mostly felt trapped all her life. Carmen truly believed school was the only way out, and she could handle what was expected of her in class, but there was no syllabus for relating to the people. And from the students to the professors, they were different breeds from the folks that she used to know. Even the black ones, especially the black ones. They knew more, had more, expected more. She looked across the darkness towards Regina and Jewel, certain that she wasn't the one with her nose in the air. Before the fussing started again, a muffled voice called from somewhere beneath them. Hey, anybody in there?
Yeah!
Well, just sit tight, we're working on it, and if we have to, we can lower the manually so that as it gets here.
Great. She's great. I'm gonna be late for work again.
The mechanic is probably home in the Bronx watching TV.
Regina headed for the opposite corner. Jewel took a spot on the floor between them. Felt around in her bag until she found her Virginia Slims and the monogrammed silver lighter her mother had given her when she was 15. The brief flash brought their faces into view. Then they faded, their voices filling the void.
I hate cigarette smoke.
You hate smoking.
She stuck her cigarette on the floor and thumped the butt to the corner.
Let's get this out while we're studying here. What else don't you like about it? Must be something you've never
Geena leaned back in her corner, waiting for the
You know
fireworks.
what? I didn't have orchestra seats. I sat in the balcony.
Oh. You come on. I sat in the first row because it was a 2-hour lecture and I needed a leg room. And so I could answer enough questions so that the professor would know I wasn't the stupid girl from the sitcom who got in because I could afford to pay tuition. Oh, that's what you did too.
Why do you care what I think?
Carmen gave Jewel credit for being direct. If she wanted it straight, she'd get it.
I hate when people judge me on what they think they know. Fair?
Okay. Fair. What did make you come here? I mean, you don't exactly need a degree to act.
Maybe I don't want to act. Maybe I want to be a diplomat. Or an art critic. Or an art historian. What's your name?
Biochem. I'm pre-med.
Carmen always liked the way it sounded. She had staked out a future to obliterate her past, and the present was what she had to go through to get there.
Man, pre-med? You really do have to study all the time. So, what did you end up getting in that art class?
Okay, you.
Man, I only got a B.
Guess you should have studied with the sitcom girl.
Maybe next time.
Oh my God, what is that in your stomach?
I didn't get a chance to eat.
Clearly.
I'm always hungry. Stomach growling out loud. Give me a snack or something.
It's so loud.
Okay. So, around the time Amber got engaged, Markson and Dyer became a subsidiary of a mammoth cosmetics conglomerate traded on the New York Stock Exchange. So much for home run. New rumors spread daily, but not much changed for a while. Then the pinstripe vultures from the home planet started touring the offices, interviewing various people. Nobody said boo to me, which should have been a clue, but I was happily engrossed in wedding plans. Then I get a memo from Human Resources asking me to schedule an interview. Do you know they had the nerve to make me reapply for a job? That's what it amounted to anyway. The woman who interviewed me looked about Amber's age, and she definitely was wearing a fragrance from one of the other subsidiaries. It made my eyes water. She assured me it was standard procedure to reevaluate employees when they were unifying the workforce, right? That made me feel a whole lot better. So I wanted to get up and tell her, this company would not exist without me. But I tried to keep my cool, act like a dignified professional. She flipped through my files and asked if my associate's degree was the only one I held. I wanted to say, girl, what I did for this company had nothing to do with degrees. It was about ingenuity, persistence, dedication. But I answered yes. I explained that I was Olivia Markson's first employee. She looked underwhelmed. Then it was over. Just like that. So nothing happened for a month and a half. We had Amber's shower, the final fittings. And then it was Friday morning, my last work day before the big event. And I was summoned to HR again. This time by the director. So as soon as I sat down, he started this big speech about appreciating my loyal service, eliminating redundancy, blah, 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 blah. He stared directly in my eyes like he was trying to hypnotize me. Sounded like he was speaking on the wire. Well, I caught the upshot. You're firing me. You know, he said some stupidness about outplacement, and I snapped. Well, I got a job with this company after my vacation. He sputtered and tried to find a delicate way to say no, but that was the answer. He babbled on about some papers to sign, a separation package, and not removing company property. But before he was done, I walked out and straight into my escort, this big, wide-bodied guy in a blue blazer, who would accompany me to my office and out of the building. Well, you must know, I was outraged. Olivia Markson herself had left me in her apartment alone the very first day she met me. And this goon was supposed to make sure I didn't steal anything? Like there was anything I really wanted besides my job, but that ship had sailed. So nobody looked at me as I walked through the halls, bulldog trailing behind me. When I got to my office, I laid my head on the desk. It was just too heavy to hold. And I was getting a migraine, trying not to cry. And then the bulldog says, you need a box for your things, which I guess is corporate speak for, hurry to get the hell out. So I raised up, glared at him, he shut up and stepped back off me. Then I looked around. So what was there to take anyway, really? I dumped the pens on my desk and put the mug of lipstick I made in my purse. Then I looked at Rapunzel. And I remembered that tiny little plastic pot and Olivia repotting it and the 25 years. Next thing I knew, I snatched it and I started eating 40 feet of philodendron in the shredder. The loud buzzing and grinding, that's exactly how I felt. What I wanted to do with what they had made of Olivia's company. And oh, did I happen to say that while all that was going on, I accidentally, on purpose, shredded the neatly arranged, annotated index cards I had been using to organize the Markson corporate history. It was so easy. I mean, they were right there on my drawer, exactly where I left them before my trip to the guillotine. They wanted to know how it all started. Let them come ask me. Yeah. Then the flower pot fell and dumped dirt and leaves all over my shoes and the carpet. Bulldog got all tense. Hey, what are you doing in there? What does it look like I'm doing? Like that made some sense. But he kept eyeing me like he wanted to make me stop, but he didn't know how. And I didn't stop until I got that high-pitched whine and the shredder teeth all clogged. By now, all my coworkers started gathering around the door to see what the commotion was. I pulled off the shredder lid, and I started tossing the green bits up in the air like confetti. Because I've been spending money on Amber's wedding like confetti. And I just kept saying, the gown, the flowers, the limo, all these bills, and bills. And me with no job. Bye-bye, I said. And the leaves were all in my hair. Now I look like a crazy woman, but at that moment I really was. And that bulldog had had enough. He snatched my purse, my arm, and dragged me out to the applause of my coworkers. And I decided right then and there that nobody knew about this until after the wedding.
Dear Donna and Virginia, I can't express to both of you how I enjoyed this book. I've never written an author before. This is the truth. I haven't put this book down yet, and I had to find a way to contact you to let you know, awesome job. I'm currently serving a year tour in Iraq, and my two best friends are here. We haven't met the same challenges verbatim, but I couldn't stop thinking of us as I turned each page. I went on your website to see how I could order your other books, but I know for sure I can find it on Amazon.com because I'm sure they would mail to Iraq. Thank you for your wonderful book. It really did take me out of the madness I'm in.
Part 2. Pat and Gail, once inseparable best friends, have been estranged for almost 10 years. Their paths cross again Thanksgiving Day at a New York City homeless shelter. You can stop liking your friends, but does that mean you stop loving them?
There's no need. Some things can't be fixed. I learned that the hard way.
Gail brushed at the hair that used to lie on her shoulders, seemed startled it wasn't there.
Hear me out, okay? This won't take long.
Gail sipped her tea and, without looking at Pat, got up and led the way to one of the daycare rooms down the hall. And there they stood. They traveled different paths, each with heavy baggage to shoulder, but they arrived at the crossroads together.
Yeah. I don't know who you saw, but it wasn't me.
For so long, Pat had viewed Gail through a lens distorted by anger, colored by hurt. But looking at her straight on, Pat realized there was more to what they had. For the first time in years, she felt the strong pull of their shared past.
I may have lost everything else, but my eyesight is still.
Gail recited chapter and verse of the morning at Westchester that had been branded in her memory. Pat sank to the red preschool tabletop.
You're right. It was me.
She looked directly in Gail's eyes, searching for that place where they used to tell each other the truth without even speaking.
But I swear on my life, I didn't see you.
You didn't want to see it. Just admit it. We can go our separate ways. Because I didn't realize until now how bad I used to remind me about this much longer.
No, not our separate ways. Not again. I just come from meeting my father.
Gail's harsh demeanor was softened by the impact of Pat's words. Pat nodded.
He basically told me to go to bed. When I got to my room, I couldn't see or hear anything but what he had said to me. I wish I could have seen you, but I couldn't.
Voices and the clatter of plates and forks from down the hall filled the void as each adjusted her view of now, based on a new understanding of then.
You found your father, and he said that.
Gail spoke quietly. Pat nodded and brushed at the tear that dripped onto her skirt. They were silent again. Pat looked up.
Yeah. I mean, what are you doing here?
Short version. Ramsey was a gambler. I was blind and dumb. So busy looking, I forgot to see. When we used to say that? Anyway. He lost it all and ran off and killed himself just before last Christmas.
Oh. I am so sorry.
We kind of had life pieced together. Mama and Vanessa and me. I was working as a receptionist at the hotel, but then there was a fire. Vanessa was hurt real bad. Mom
Gail's voice cracked and her fragile composure dissolved.
I lost my mom.
Telling Pat, who had eaten those buttermilk donuts around the kitchen table, brought home the enormous ache she hadn't made time to feel. The shock of sadness brought Pat to her feet. Tentatively, they reunited in a hug that felt familiar and long overdue. As they clung to each other and cried, time and space fell away, and they were in front of the house in St. Albans the day Pat came to stay.
I love you, Pat. I love you too.
This
by the New York Times best-selling authors Virginia DeBerry and Donna. We are also shining a wonderful spotlight on our journey of bringing all of these books to film, TV, and more. You're about to learn about that journey in this next panel. But also, we want to empower all of you, bless you, as a collective to let your light shine and join us on this movement as we work to change the narrative as it relates to the portrayal of women and girls of color in Hollywood and in the movie. I want to give a heartfelt thanks to all of you. Thank you. For taking the time to join us tonight and celebrate Black History Month in this unique way. I also want to take a moment to thank our collaborators for this evening. First, a tremendous thanks to Geena Davis, Madeline Di Nonno, Jasmine Borad, and Elizabeth Kirkpatrick of the Geena Davis Institute for Gender I'm a colored girl from Cincinnati, Ohio, who reached out to Elizabeth a year or so ago as I was on the eve of graduating with this crazy PhD in marketing and said, I'd like to join you in the movement as a researcher, as a marketing executive, and what can we do together? And so, thank you so much. And then also, we have some other collaborators in the room who've been on this journey with us as we are taking all of these books to the silver screen and the small screen and so much more. So I'd like to thank them. First, Marty Morel, who's here from Chicago. And
here with us now. So, all that we have done with this journey is dedicated to Cheryl Jenkins. Mother of Virginia DeBerry, Juanita. My mother, who just recently passed away, Gloria Jenkins. Let's continue with part 2 of this celebration. It's my pleasure to bring back Madeline, who will lead us in the panel discussion. Thank you.
So we'll probably have time for 2 rounds of questions. The first round of questions is going to be about pathways, and then the second round of questions is going to be around pivots and choices. So along the pathways, I'm going to start with Donna and Virginia. So what's very interesting is, well, there's more degrees up here than you can even imagine in terms of education, higher education, but Donna and Virginia talk about being models, because you didn't wake up one day and as a child said, I'm a model. You kind of got pulled into it, and then that also formed the pathway. But I'd love for you to, talk about that, because that also informed your thoughts about media, portrayals, etc. So if you could just talk a little bit about that backstory, because everyone knows you've been great friends and writing partners for years.
You just don't really ever know when you are going to set off another path. I was working in advertising at the Daily News in New York, and there was this new thing called plus-size modeling that was starting. This is in the early 80s, and my coworkers said, you would be great at that. And I thought they'd all lost their minds. But I bet them lunch. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go to the agency, I'm gonna follow this whole 9 yards, and I'll have a really funny story to tell you while you're buying me lunch. Long story short, the agent said, I really can book you. My first booking was for Emmy magazine. My second client was Lane Bryant. I bought lunch. And eventually I left my job and I became a plus-size model, which is where Virginia and I intersect.
I was a high school English teacher in Buffalo, New York. I had been teaching 9.5 years when a friend of mine who worked at Wilhelmina Models in New York said, there's this new thing called plus-size modeling. I think you'd be really good at it. And I said to her, we're the same age. Models don't start over 30. And she said, don't tell them, and they'll never know how old you actually are. She said, come to New York, check out a couple of agencies, you can stay with me and my brand new husband in our studio apartment. And that's how much she actually believed in this. So I quit my job as a school teacher to move to New York City at the age of 32 to pursue a career as a fat model, and no one told me that I shouldn't. My parents said, go right ahead, we think you're going to be a success. My father went out and bought a scrapbook. My mother said, why did you get one with so many pages? And he said, don't worry, she'll fill it up. And 5 years before my mother passed away, she said, I had to buy a second scrapbook. Fabulous. Donna and I met and became best friends. We should have been enemies because only one of us was going to get the job. You've seen magazines, you've seen catalogs. One black model, not two. But we just clicked.
And so,
because we realized that we had a lot in common. We both were great readers. We both read everything, novels, nonfiction, magazines. And we had this crazy idea about bringing a large-size magazine to market. There was no one representing that. You didn't see us in Vogue, you didn't see us in Mademoiselle.
And long before Ashley Graham and Sports Illustrated, and we were really pioneers.
And we were able to found a magazine called Maxima. We were having a ball. We were planning on being Condé and Nast.
Building a magazine empire, right from my apartment in New York.
Unfortunately, we ran into the stock market crash of 1987. And the money that had been allocated for this publication evaporated. So it was New Year's Eve, and we both got a call. And the call started, "It's been wonderful working with you.
A lot like what's here.
And you know that this is not going anywhere you want to go." Long story short, there we were. We said a lot of bad words.
We drank a lot of adult beverages. And we figured out that we had to figure out something that we could continue to do together. We didn't know what it was, but it had to be something. It couldn't cost any money because we didn't have any. We had tied up everything in trying to make this magazine work. And we came up with another crazy idea. Let's write a book. And here we are.
So along the pathways, people always say, like, don't do business with your family, keep your friends separate from your business. And a writing partnership is a marriage. So how did you we know what the end product is, and the product has been fabulous, but talk about that marriage that you've had, that partnership, and who does what, and how do you not, what happens when you fight, and whose characters win, and whose dialogue wins, because a lot of people in the room, how many of you in the room are creatives or writers, or, and how many of you write with a partner, or develop with a partner? Okay, so if you could just talk about that, how that works.
It was pretty clear that we think inside each other's heads from the beginning. If you gave us a stack of 100 photographs, we would edit down to the same 2. Something I was thinking would come out of her mouth. It sounds ridiculous, and it sort of sounds simple too, and it's just the way that it worked. We have never stepped on each other's toes. When we work, our egos are left at the door. It's never about who wins. It's never about, you had the last sentence, so this one is mine. It was about whatever was best for the story. And if you asked us now, who wrote what in any given novel, nobody could tell you, because really it was all about being the author. It was really, really important that you couldn't tell who wrote what, because that means you're not in the story, you're thinking about us. So we had bets at our publishing houses that they would be able to tell, and no one ever could.
And we actually work together physically in the same space. The brain connection only works the best when we are together. These are our sides. If I was sitting on that side, I couldn't talk. So whatever the port is that connects our brains, this is it. And we sit side by side at a computer, and we have plotted out a story very carefully. We know where it's going, and one is talking and the other is typing, and I know, and you pass the keyboard over, and that is how we do it. And she is correct. At the end of a book, we have no idea who wrote what. The two of us together become a separate voice, and that's the voice that tells the story. And it is very much like a marriage. And we have been in this one for 36 years, I guess, and we're still happy. And in fact, when Donna got married, I was her maid of honor, along with her friend Arlene, who is here from Brooklyn. From Queens, I'm sorry, Queens, got it.
Oh, please get that straight.
I got that straight. Sorry. The outer boroughs, I'm just not familiar. But I was right up there when she got married because her husband needed to know that I came with the deal. That if he was marrying her, he got me too. And we're still best friends. We knew that we could make this work and not have it jeopardize our friendship. And we have people who have tried to do this and it doesn't work for them. This is a unique gift that was given to us for a reason we don't understand, but we tried to do something good with it and nothing evil. So far.
They're a blessed example of storytellers either tell stories about what they love, what they know, and I'm going to move down to Courtney. What was the first thing you ever wrote? Because you've been writing and writing for forever, so what was your pathway?
My mother is actually here. I always say my career started with plagiarism, long before I knew what that was, because I was 4 in the kitchen when my mom was cooking, frying some chicken, and I just had a lot of questions about a book that I had read, Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. And I said to her, Mommy, why is this little white girl going into the forest? And she was like, I don't know, but I'm this little girl. And I was like, well, why was she going to a house with bears? Didn't she know she was going to be eaten? My mom patiently, Courtney, I don't know. Did you like the story? I'm like, yeah, I did, but what is porridge? Is it oatmeal? And my mom, as she fried chicken, was like, if you don't like the story, the way it's written, go and write your own. And I set off to write my story that was inspired by chicken, and it was called The Fried Chicken Family. Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, they just lived in a bucket of chicken. Made of biscuits, I did illustrations, but my love for stories started, and my inspiration for the path was always stemmed from my mother's words. If you don't like the way a story is written, write your own. And so that has stayed with me throughout my career and the path. I am a storyteller. I was inspired to become an author based off of, and I had the lovely privilege of meeting both Donna and Virginia yesterday and said that my mother was an avid reader. I read everything she read. Some things weren't appropriate for me. I was the 12-year-old writing book reports about burning loins and things that didn't even read grades, but it piqued my interest. I always wanted to tell stories or read stories that represented women of color and families of color that looked like my family. And so, I can honestly say throughout the various mediums of entertainment, both in publishing and in television and in film, story has been at my core. And again, the path just was laid for me, and I've just walked the course accordingly.
So you've had great success as being a published author, and you've picked certain genres to write about, one being self-help, etc. But then you also moved through TV, and then you were a ghostwriter, which is also interesting. So I'd love for you to talk about your own publishing and your works, and then what it's like being a ghostwriter, because it's a very unique pathway for some people, and I'm sure you want to kill some of the people you had a ghost for, but just talk a little bit about that, because I think it's very, very unique, very interesting.
The thing that's great about story is it transcends the various mediums of your life. So if you have a good story, it starts with who you are. My first job as a published author was as a ghostwriter. I was given an opportunity, a unique opportunity from Elin Harris. I had no idea what a ghostwriter was. I was just a 22-year-old who wanted to check and wanted to be a writer, and was given an opportunity. Elin, and I can say this now, God rest his soul, he's passed on, but when you're a ghostwriter, a lot of times, even for authors, if you get bigger in name, like James Patterson is not cranking out books every month, guys. He's just not doing it. He hires ghostwriters or authors that will generally just write a first draft. And when I discovered that craft, and I was introduced to it. It wasn't something that I sought out. I just wanted to work, and I wanted to write, and I wanted to get paid. And so when an opportunity presented itself to me by a very well-known author such as Lynn, I jumped at the opportunity because here I am in my early 20s with an opportunity to write and make money at doing so. So because I didn't have to tour, all I had to do was just kind of write a first draft of something, and then people came in and made it to suit to fit. I was like, oh, I'm on to something. And then I have a really good friend in college that just so happened to go pro in football, and he and I were friends. A small guy by the name of Terrell Owens, who has to date written 5 books. Wonder why? Because one of his best friends was an author, and we had an idea of doing his first book as an autobiography. And he was like, hey, Courtney, let's do a book. And I was like, oh, okay, let's tell your story. I was familiar with the story. I knew the story. I didn't know everything about football, but I knew how to tell a story throughout the various platforms. Wrote for T.O., got kind of pegged as a good celebrity ghostwriter for sports. Again, I'm a girl, a very, girly girl. But you just hear about certain things, and then it's word of mouth. People will say, oh, well, you want to write an autobiography on football? Call Courtney. And so that just kind of, became kind of my calling card. But again, it all just goes back to story. So whether it's sports, whether it's fiction, whether it's nonfiction, whether it's television, whether it's film, it all starts and ends with a story, and I've just been very blessed to be able to help people tell theirs.
Thank you very much. So there's different ways to tell the stories. Obba, I want to turn to you because what I have heard, and if Geena was here, she would say, people think, if you're a great actor, just bring your acting to it and just make it work. And clearly, the words need to be there in order for you to tell the story. And let me just sum up. I mean, this is the countdown on Obba. Hundreds of TV series and episodes, 60 TV movies, 30 films, 17 stage productions, 2 series. I feel like such a slacker. I mean, oh my God. So I would love. Now, what was interesting is, was theater your first love, and how was that a gateway for you? Because I've heard from certain actors that theater is maybe more open, more welcoming, and you've done it all, but if you could just talk about your way of telling stories and just your pathway.
Well, it's, in my last year of high school, I started to write poetry. And, so much is informed, as Courtney was mentioning. What your experience is what often, as we heard today, with the beautiful work, and can we give these authors another round? So much of the stories that you tell are born out of what it is that you experience and that which you know, that which is connected to you. So, in my last year of high school, I started to write these poems. And then my first year of college, I turned them into one-act plays that I produced, starred in, directed, and got others to participate in. That introduced me. I was in New York. I was raised in New York. And I just want to say something about that briefly, because people always say, I'm from New York, I'm from Brooklyn, I'm from the Queens, blah, 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 blah. And I always say to them, I said, if you were born, you can't take any real specific credit for where you were born. That's where your mama dropped you. Right? If you were flying over the Pacific Ocean and your mother gave birth, I'm from the Pacific Ocean, I'm going to be honest with you. When we do it doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, but I happened to be in New York, and the theater community and the art community was thriving. It was just being born also, though, out of the times that we were coming along. It wasn't just because people decided to be artists. I think art chooses you. I don't think you choose it. I think the artists in the room would agree with that. Would you? Yeah. So, you know, I started to direct these things, and that introduced me to the theater community. And I got involved in studying dance and all those things. In short, to address your question specifically, which is a good question and deserves a good answer, is if you were going to be a bus driver, what might you want to learn how to do? Drive a bus. Okay? So, you know, very often people will say to me, they say, yo, bro, listen, man, I see all your movies, man, I love what you do, man. Next time you get ready to do a movie or a television show, hook a brother up. And I said, thank you very much, because I know they intend to pay a compliment. And I said, let me ask you a question. Have you ever been physically ill enough to go see a physician? Huh? Have you ever gone to see a doctor? Yes. Do you ever remember, upon occasion of leaving that doctor's office, you turned to she or he and said, yo, doc, next time you get ready to do an operation or examination, hook a brother up. You don't say that to them at that time, because you realize at that moment that you're ill-qualified to do what it is that they're doing. So give the respect and the regard to the artists, because actually they shape and mold and capture the story of our history. So that was sort of the maturation of the beginnings of my journey into this craft. I also watched television, and I saw certain individuals, like, for example, my entertainment mentor, Mr. Sammy Davis Jr. And there were only a few channels at that time. And so whenever anybody who looked like you came on the record, hey, come on, man, look who's on TV, come on, you know, so you would all watch. But the thing that I identified was that he wasn't just an entertainer. That what he did was he operated at the basis of a standard of excellence. He did it with the best, and he did it with all that he could possibly muster. So that became a role model in terms of mentoring, in terms of the arts. That whatever I was going to do, that I would give it the full measure of my devotion. And in that, you cannot lose. I often say, your do is not necessarily your who. By that I mean what you do is how that affects change in your life. Your who is how you affect change in someone else's life. We have the ability as artists to be able to affect change in people's life. Jeffrey Holder used to say when we were doing Timbuktu, darling, you always do your performance for the little man or woman in the cheapest seat in the back of the house, because it is that person that the life that you have the most opportunity to change. I'm going to just say this, and if there's another question we have to answer, but I got together yesterday, the cast got together to do the rehearsal for the read. And this stunning doctor said to me, do you remember me? And I said, your face is extremely familiar. Which was true. It was. With good reason. She said to me, she said, the very first show that I did in my last year of high school, you directed me in. It was Dreamgirls, and we were at La Comedia Theater. And I said to her yesterday at the table, I said, at the risk of not trying to be pejorative, but I feel parental in this moment. Because I say that with great sincerity, because I would like to believe that I somehow sowed a seed that has given birth. She did the work. But, you know, that's something that we all can do. There was a woman named Alma Smith who probably is not known to anybody but me, and she was my best friend's mother. And one day I was having a bad day at school. And she saw me, and she took my chin into her hand. She picked my chin up, she looked into my eyes, and she said, it's going to be okay. You're special. And for whatever the reason was, I heard her and I believed her. And I identified, that's why I sit here before you today. And I also would like to suggest and recommend that we all have the ability to be an Alma Smith to someone. You can look into some young person's eyes or an older person's eyes and say to them, you're special, and it's going to be okay. And they might hear you, and in doing so, one day, they can be all of us.
Thank you. good doctor and talking about artistry. Tyra, I would love for you to tell us a little bit about being a singer and a jazz vocalist. I mean, it's crazy, her resume, which you'll see in the book, but for you, what was the pathway? Was it started in music, or, I mean, talk a little bit about that and how, I mean, music is a connective tissue for all of us. So I'd just love to talk about that, your pathway, and then obviously how you got into your career.
Well, it began with my mom, right? My mom wanted to expose my brother and me to the world, just everything. And her maiden name was the Joneses, you know, and so everyone in Cincinnati wanted to be like the Joneses, you know, my mother's family. And so when she was young, she had voice lessons. My mother played the piano exquisitely and just gave all of us that type of exposure. So, 3 years old, ballet, right? And 8 years old, voice, you know. And I went to the School for Creative Performing Arts in Cincinnati, Ohio, and was a triple threat. So, which meant I danced well, I acted well, and I sang well. And by the time I was 15, I was performing professionally all across the country. And with my mom leading the way, taking me to rehearsals and everything else. And in high school, I got exposed to jazz. First at home, because my dad was a jazz DJ at Cheney College in Philadelphia. And just loved jazz. We did Sophisticated Ladies in high school. I mean, it was just very progressive type of school with non-traditional casting, just wonderful. And so that's how I got into jazz and singing and performing. And when I went to Northwestern University, I have 2 degrees, one TV and film. I was trained to be a TV film producer, but I also have a degree in musical theater, which I never talk about. But I was the first African-American woman to graduate from their musical theater program. If anyone remembers or knows or has heard of this wonderful singer, performer by the name of Heather Headley, well, when she came to Northwestern, they told Heather, "You're going to be the next Tyra on campus." And so she was the second African-American woman to graduate with a music theater degree from Northwestern. And that's singing jazz has been my passion. And it's something that I do, something that no one can take away from me. And I've sung all over the world, the Blue Note clubs in Japan and Sugar Bar in New York City. I've opened for Kirk Whalum and Pieces of a Dream, Roy Haynes, Jonathan Butler. So it's just something that I do.
A little something that she does. And can you tell us your pathway to Virginia and Donna? Because that's the other side of you, the business side of you. And talk about how you were led to be with them and all of that.
Sure. So after I graduated from Northwestern, you know, I'm in Hollywood, going to be a TV film executive, and started at NBC, worked at a creative artist agency on a motion picture literary desk.
So not in the mailroom.
Not in the mailroom.
No mailroom for her.
And then was able to get a great gig with Quincy Jones, David Salzman Entertainment, in their TV film department. And Waiting to Exhale had just come out, and the president of the film division said, "Tyson," because that's what he called me, "you are charged to find the next Waiting to Exhale." And I said, "Okay." And I was a story editor at the time, was reading tons of material, and got this book called Trying to Sleep in the Bed You Made. Sounded like could be Waiting to Exhale, you know, nice title. And read the book, came back in on Monday and said, I found it, this is it. And come to find out HBO had the rights, but...
What year was this?
This is 96, 97?
Okay.
Something like that. And then I reached out to Donna in Virginia to say, this is who I am, this is what we're interested in. And, you know, they're telling me HBO has the rights, but I'm like, can we stay in touch? Can we meet? Can we what else you got? You know? And that's kind of how our relationship started. And then in 2004, when I moved to New York, and by that time, for all the entertainment people in the house, the barrier to entry for independent film had definitely minimized. And I felt, oh my gosh, I could raise the money. Because now I'm a newly minted MBA. I can raise the money and do it. You know, the success in Hollywood, you take a book, a successful book, to a movie. That's what, you know, Oscar-nominated movies come from. So, you know, okay, this little color girl, like, I can do it. Donna, Virginia, this is what I want to do. Laid out my plan, and he said, okay. And that's how we started this journey.
So,
We never got made from the first option.
well, so now I want to, so now round two, pivots and taking control of your destiny. I do want to talk about, you know, amongst the three of you, there's been some ups, there's been some downs, and I do believe this is the best time for their work. But I want you to talk about what has happened and how you've looked to, you know, package it and because it's you can't give up, but I think it's important for people in the room to hear how you've had to make some choices in order to protect your IP, and just if you could just share a little bit about and where you are now, because anyone who is developing or can write a check or etc., please see us after. No check is too large. But if you could just talk about that, pivots and choices that you've had made.
Sure, so I'll start. I had a wonderful friend who worked at Deutsche Bank on Wall Street, and when I shared with him what I wanted to do, I need to raise $10 million to produce and, you know, market this movie, he said, I'm going to introduce you to my boss. The head of entertainment at Deutsche Bank had a meeting with this gentleman, and this gentleman, you know, loved my passion, I guess. And so he gave me the template that Deutsche Bank used to raise, what, $500 million for all of the Mission Impossible movies. And he said, just use this template to raise your money. And I said, oh, okay. You know, take a solid book that had good business, you can turn it into a movie, and I can use the template from Deutsche Bank to raise $10 million. If he raised what he raised, I can do that. I followed the template to a T and started these meetings with venture capitalist gentlemen on Wall Street with Donna, Virginia. We do our song and dance. And every meeting, you know, it's just 3 black women and all these white men in the room. They'd say after our pitch, it's black. It's black. It's urban and it's black. We don't want to take the risk, you know? And then I started equipping myself for also the pushback, it won't sell internationally. Hip-hop music sells internationally, you know? Why wouldn't this sell internationally? So that's the beginning of the journey. I'll let
What you'll notice, I think, through all of us, is that none of this happens in what one would call the traditional way. No one, discovered us at the corner drugstore. No one was necessarily looking for what we do. We had to go out and find that pathway. And that's certainly what happened for Virginia and I when we were working, writing. When we first started writing, it was that nobody could figure out what category to fit us into, because we had to fit into a category that already existed. So we didn't write like Toni Morrison, and we didn't write like Terry McMillan, so what could we be? We were fortunate enough to find an editor who said, I like what you write, we'll figure out what to call it, and go from there. And that was the book that was Trying to Sleep in the Bed You Made. The way that Tyra and Tracy Campbell came to us is not traditional. Traditionally, your literary agent would receive offers to co-agent with an agent that worked with film. and that film agent would then,
Especially the first time a book sells 25,000 copies, the film agents are on it. They want to know what they can do to maximize this reach. That did not happen with us.
it was that they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know who to take it to, they didn't know who wanted to make it, they didn't know that anybody wanted to make it, which is why we all started to work on it together. So the answer is, if it doesn't work the traditional way, then you have to find your own way. You have to find whatever way it is, guerrilla produced, whatever it is. Look for the people who support what you do. Look for the people who have been doing it another way. It's that no one's going to make this easy. They just don't. So, whether it's Spike Lee deciding to use his credit cards to finance his films, there are all kind of alternative ways, and that's actually gotten easier. The technology is there to make it more possible. The internet is there to help you find people who do what you do. It is that you do have to have the passion. None of this is easy. Virginia and I work really, really long hours, and worked other jobs to support the fact that we were writing.
And it was laborious, but it was a labor of love. We knew that we had this story to tell, and we knew that we had another story to tell, and we knew that we had hit on something. And people ask us now, and it might come up later because somebody's already asked us, what are you working on next? And the publishing industry has changed so dramatically in the last 10 years that so many of the writers that came along at the time that we came along aren't writing anymore because the publishing industry isn't looking for that. They created a genre called African American fiction. It became urban lit. We called them booty thug books because it was either soft porn or it was just about crime and drugs, and the books were poorly written and poorly edited, but they found an audience that was buying them anyway. So they didn't have to pay authors to actually really write a book. They didn't have to pay editors to work on that. They could just put these books out, people would buy them, and so there's a whole group of us, Valerie Wilson Wesley and Connie Briscoe and Benilde Little, that aren't writing anymore because every book, instead of you getting more money, they were offering you less. They were telling you that you had to do most of your marketing and your publicity. We're lucky. When we did our original book tours, we were in limos and we flew first class and we stayed in Ritz-Carltons, and people who are doing books now look at us like, what? But when we did our last book tour, we picked up a rental car with some GPS, and that's how you got from place to place. And it became this thing that was just not sustainable. But books live on forever. And a well-told story is timeless. And we were and have been determined to find other ways to keep our stories alive. When it is 20 years later and you are still getting letters from people who are telling you how much this story meant to them, we can't let that just go away. So the opportunity to try and bring it to a screen, large or small, Tryin, Tree, Better, What Doesn't Kill You, Gotta Keep On Trying, all of the books, to do that has just kept us, and our team has grown over the years, but to have all of these young women, because all the women on our team are significantly younger than Donna and I, and to have women who are 20 years younger than us feel a commitment to this work has been extraordinary. So this time around, we have not been having meetings in Hollywood with white men in starched white shirts. We have been having meetings with black women, and it's been extraordinary. And I made a point to wear starched white shirts to our meeting. It was just reminding me of some of the things that we went through in '97 and '98, and I can't even begin to tell you. The Winona Ryder and Gwyneth Paltrow was just a little bit of what we heard from the people in power to make those decisions.
They wanted to tell us what we should be writing. Like, they had the answers to what was going to sell and what they wanted to see. Instead of looking at the story that was there, they had ideas about how we should tell stories, and none of them had to do with any of the people that we knew and any of the stories that we wanted to tell.
So I want to actually throw it to Obba, and we were talking about commitment and choices, and you've made very decisive decisions about the roles that you've played, and many of them are not stereotypical, and I'm sure there's a lot of things you've had to walk away from.
Yes, all the time, all the time. I want to give you guys some great news. You want great news? Okay, watch this. What? There you go. Firstly, I want to compliment you. The way you're monitoring this is really well done. And the fact that you have talked about this, it's very often what people don't do is say, well, you know, talk about the challenges that you have. And that's very important. But I want to give you some great news. And this is not because it's deep or heavy, but it's factual. There's a difference between truth and fact. There's a difference between truth and fact. Fact is scientific, it's irrefutable. Truth is that which you can get the majority of the people to accept as being the truth. So be careful when we talk about truth. Okay? Now identify this, if you will. This is the good news. If you've ever known what a piggy bank is, raise your hand. Okay? Okay, some of the millennials may not know. Piggy bank was something where we put money in. Okay? Everything that is matter has a level of combustion. Everything that is matter has a level of combustion. Okay? Alright. So we got this piggy bank. Put your name on that piggy bank. And you put nickels, dimes, quarters, dollars, and eventually it reaches its capacity. The smallest denomination in American currency is a penny. But once it reaches its capacity, that penny can break it open. Right or wrong? This is interactive. Right or wrong? Okay, all right. So now, when it breaks open, you have what? You have the residual of your investment, don't you? You have whatever you put in. If you put great stuff in there, that's what's in there. You put garbage in there, that's what's in there. Put some great, some garbage, then you're going to have a little bit of each. Okay? Now, if you do not know what you want, how can you obtain it? If you do not know what you want, how can you obtain it? So the first thing is, just make a decision on what it is that you want. Now, you know, it's interesting because people have talked about want and need. Jethro got 6 cars. That fool don't need 6 cars. He don't have 6 cars because he needs 6 cars. He has 6 cars because he wants 6 cars. So don't let somebody tell you about limiting you based on need. Decide what you want, but you make that decision for yourself. I can guarantee you, as I sit here before you and the rest of these people, that if you decide what you want and do at least one thing every day toward obtaining that, you will absolutely obtain it, and if not, you will have the best time of your life on the way to it. I'm giving you the recipe. This is no joke. One thing, a minimum of one thing a day. Okay? I often tell actors when I give a master class, the way to get in the room and the way to get out of the room. Because there's 3 auditions the actor generally does. The one on the way to the audition, the one in the room, and then the one on the way home. And you kill the one on the way home, don't you? Man, you say, man, if I did that in the room, I would have got the job every time. Okay? Well, the truth of the matter is I teach them how to bring the one on the way home into the room. What has changed? The only thing, identify this. When you go to an audition, as opposed to going, this is to your point, as opposed to going to get something, go to give something. Now you are in control. Hey, when do y'all see this? Man, I have prepared myself. When I walk into this room, y'all gonna see the best thing you've ever seen all day long. Now, you leave with at least what you came with. So there's nothing to lose. You get concerned about that person that's sitting on the other side. I sit on the other side, and very often, we don't know what the heck we want. We're waiting for that person to come in and tell us what we want. That's it right there. Okay? So understand the power that you have. Understand the power that you possess. Hone that power. Hone that craft. And go in and prepare. Luck. What is luck? The rabbit wasn't that lucky. When you talk about a rabbit's foot, he wasn't that lucky either. Okay? All right. But if you make a decision and give it the full measure of your devotion, it will manifest. Now you can choose to believe that or not. My responsibility is to, not for. I'm responsible to tell you what I know is true. Not for whether you accept it or not. That's on you. For is codependency. In the room is Miss Kim. She was executive on a movie that I did called Miss Evers Boys. A brilliant film. Okay? But let me just tell you this, to what the ladies were talking about. Kip and Kern Conweiser, right? Kip and Kern Conweiser had this movie. It was a play first, okay? Kern was in this professor's class. He said, you want to be a producer? Go see if you can get this made. A movie about men with syphilis. Who's going to make that movie? Good luck. He took the challenge, and he went out there. And the HBO, who took the bow, turned it down 3 times. No, who wants to make that movie? Who wants to make that movie? Okay. He talked to one of the secretaries, and she said, look, I cannot tell you. Zach was greenlighting the movies at that time. He said, we can't tell you, except that he's in this hotel. That's all I can tell you. He waited in the lobby. When he came down, he started talking. He said, listen, I got this movie. I know you haven't read it. I know you turned it down. I know that. He said, oh, he took it, and he read it. He called him up and said, now that I've read it, I'm really saying no. There was a man named Dick Benedetti who was working for the company of who was dating Whoopi Goldberg, Ted Danson. Ted Danson and Whoopi Goldberg are dating. They got this movie. She said, baby, we really think about this movie. She said, that's a great movie. I would like to do this movie. So HBO heard about Ted Danson and Whoopi Goldberg got this movie. They said, of course we want to do that movie. Who said we didn't want to do that movie? Okay, well, Ted and Whoopi broke up. They said, well, we already got it on the schedule. It went to Lawrence Fishburne. They said, Lawrence wants you to direct this. He says, no, get Joe Sargent. Put me together a first-class cast, and I'll be in it. And then the ball started to roll. It started to roll. But watch this. Those people's lives had been completely forgotten about. But like the phoenix, it rose from the ashes. Because these stories that they're talking about, that these authors have put together, they're about lives that people didn't know about. So just know, ladies and gentlemen, please know that the power lies within you. Leave here today with the intention to succeed and do not give up on your dreams.
Amen. So I'm actually going to turn to lucky you get to follow that, and talk about your choices, because you've had to make choices about stories you want to tell yourself, and then there's people who are hiring you to tell stories. You've been in writers' rooms, and there's lots of conversations about what goes on in a writer's room, especially if you're female, especially if you're a woman of color, and to talk about choices you've had to make because you either disagreed or because you were able to fight for a particular character, and just what it's been like for you.
Again, I would always say my journey and pathway has always been a unique one. I will say I've been very blessed, and I don't just say fortunate, I say blessed, to be in the various positions that I've been in. I only wanted to really be an author. That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a writer. I feel like this phase of my life, moving from, an author in books to actually having my own, being a partner in an imprint with Simon & Schuster, to segueing that into a television career as a writer on one of the most, prolific shows ever, which is Law and Order, to now being a network and studio executive. I've always been expected and have had the opportunity and been very blessed to be me, which is really all I know how to be. I was talking to the ladies yesterday and said, my dad, when I was 7, looked at me and said, Courtney, you're going to be 2 things always. Remember it. I did not know why he was telling me this, but it made sense later. He was like, you're going to be black and a woman. Use that to your advantage. Again, I'm 7, I don't know what that means, but what I now know it to mean is be authentic to my voice. I was talking to the ladies yesterday because now in my new role as VP of Alternative Programming at Adaptive Studios, the thing that I was hired to do was be me. I learned from probably one of the greatest storytellers ever, who kept saying to me, we hired you for your voice. I don't know why they told me that, because I used it. Dick Wolf in the room, in our writer's room, would say, Courtney, what did you think? Now, anybody who knows me knows I'm going to tell you the truth. So when there were scenes that included black actors or cast or storytellers, I was very vocal to say, we don't have just one narrative. All of us do not have rags to riches stories. I didn't grow up poor. I just didn't. I grew up in the suburbs. I came from a 2-parent household. We lived in a small town in Atherton in the suburbs. We had the dog and the 2 cars and the picket fence. And everybody that I knew was like that. So every story of color had range. So in the writer's room, I was very expressive to say, we all we have the same stories as you. And we have experiences similar to that, and I wasn't afraid to say that, but I was also given a platform to be comfortable saying that. I use that to segue into every position that I've held, to want to have an authentic voice in the room, and to always use whatever position I was in to be able to shape and tell the stories that I could identify with. And I, unfortunately and fortunately, could identify with story and people, regardless of color. But when given the opportunity to tell ladies and gentlemen stories of color, to do so. So every episode that I wrote on Law and Order, it was predominantly black. Even my dogs were black. I remember one of the arguments from my showrunner, Waylon Green. He was like, Courtney, we need you to have at least some token white people in your episode, because, the Catholic priestess is black, and everybody was black. Just because I just wanted to show a balance. When I was given the opportunity, when Tyra brought this project to me, just for even consideration, I jumped at it. I was at a different network at the time. I knew it probably wasn't the best fit there, but I was like, listen, I'm about to move somewhere. Let me, wait for me. I'm gonna land, let me at least consider it. I'm the only, I'm really the only woman at this level, at a senior level, at the studio that I'm at right now. But the one thing, again, that they welcomed and encouraged is for me to be me. And so in order for me to be me, I take the seeds that were sown by lovely ladies and storytellers such as Virginia and Donna, and will utilize all of my gifts and talents and power and authority to try to make something happen. And I feel like anybody who's talking about planting seeds, if you have an opportunity to be good soil for seeds like this, do it. Exhaust your possibilities and your resources. There's not many of us in the room. As Donna and Virginia pointed out, there's not many women or even women of color, but I just say there's not many women in position of power to buy, to sell, to make. So, you know, for me personally, that is my goal. Like, if I can buy it and sell it and it is good, you know, some things that aren't good, I'm trying to get it all made. But if it's good, like this, then just know and utilize your whole self to try to make that happen.
It's excellent, thank you. So, Courtney and Obba will be around afterward, but all of you probably are sitting on or have these, and so our call to action to you is twofold. One, what can you do to help get their wonderful stories to the screen, large or small? And if you think you can help them, write it down and how we can get a hold of you. And then also, if there's something that inspired you today, if you think there's a way you can change a project or anything like that, please also write that down and let us know. And if you're not currently a member and you want to be engaged with the Institute, just, you know, write that down and just leave it there. We'll collect it later. So I just want to thank everyone so much. This has been just so inspirational. And we have like 15 minutes before they'll kick us out. And I just want to give all of you a chance who want to talk to Donna and Virginia and Obba and Courtney and Tyra a chance to do that. And thank you so much.
Before we go, I would just like to acknowledge the actress in the room who read our audiobooks, Lisa Renee Kent. Because all of our books are available on audio, and they're downloadable, and you can order them from Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com.